Meet Daniel and Ryan. They're both 34 years old. They both live in Columbus, Ohio. They both earn $78,000 a year before taxes. They both have $12,000 sitting in a savings account, and they both have exactly the same debt: a $28,000 car loan at 6.9% interest, a $14,000 credit card balance averaging 21.9% APR, 4%. Fast forward 5 years. One of them has no debt, over $110,000 invested, and sleeps well at night. The other also has no debt. He tells everyone he's finally free, but his net worth is less than half of his friends. Both of them think they made the smarter choice. They're both wrong. Because becoming debt-free isn't the finish line. It's the moment your financial life quietly splits into two completely different stories. And the difference between those stories isn't usually your income. It isn't your credit score. It isn't even how much debt you had to begin with. It's what happens after the last payment clears. That's the part almost nobody talks about. By the end of this video, one small decision made during the first 12 months after becoming debt-free will create a gap so large that neither Daniel nor Ryan sees it coming. And no, it isn't because one suddenly lands a better job or starts some wildly successful business. The gap comes from ordinary choices, the kind people make every single month without thinking twice. To keep this comparison fair, we're giving both men identical starting conditions. Same age, same city, same salary, same debts, same savings, no inheritances, no lucky stock picks, no unrealistic assumptions. The only thing we're changing is what they do once they finally become debt-free, because feelings and math are two very different things. Both men decide they're tired of living under debt. For the next 22 months, they throw every spare pound, every spare dollar toward their balances. They follow the avalanche method, paying minimums on everything except the highest interest debt first. The credit cards disappear. Then the personal loan. Finally, the car loan. Including interest, each spends just over $56,000, eliminating every balance. Then comes the moment they've both dreamed about. No more monthly payments, no more statements, no more interest charges. For the first time in years, around $1,650 every month is no longer committed to debt. That's where their stories split. Daniel feels exhausted. For nearly 2 years, he's denied himself holidays, expensive dinners, and impulse purchases. Now that the debt is gone, he wants to enjoy life again. Not recklessly, just enough to feel like all that sacrifice meant something. He upgrades his apartment, leases a newer SUV for $540 a month, starts traveling twice a year, adds streaming subscriptions he canceled during Payoff, begins eating out several more times each month. Nothing outrageous, nothing that would shock anyone. His thinking is simple. I earned this. Ryan celebrates too, but he celebrates differently. Instead of replacing the £1,650, rather, the $1,650 with new lifestyle costs, he sets up an automatic investment for $1,300 into a broad U.S. stock market index fund at the beginning of every month. The remaining $350 becomes extra breathing room inside his budget for emergencies, holidays, and unexpected expenses. Nobody notices. His car is still the same. His apartment looks the same. His wardrobe doesn't suddenly improve. His social media doesn't become more impressive. His financial life becomes incredibly boring. And that's exactly why it works. One choice creates visible rewards. The other creates invisible assets. One produces compliments. The other produces compound growth. Neither decision feels dramatic on day one. That's important, because almost every expensive financial mistake feels harmless at the beginning. Let's look at the numbers after the first year. Daniel no longer has debt, which is a genuine achievement. His credit utilization has dropped dramatically, improving his credit profile. He's also built a small emergency cushion of around $4,000 because he isn't making debt payments anymore. But his new lifestyle isn't free. His SUV lease costs about $6,480 a year. Insurance increases by roughly $900 annually. Fuel and maintenance on the larger vehicle add another $1,600. The apartment upgrade costs an extra $350 each month, or $4,200 a year. His additional holidays average about $3,500. Dining out and subscriptions quietly add another $2,000. On paper, his debt payments disappeared. Sounds great until you subtract everything else. Those lifestyle upgrades consume nearly $18,700 during the first year alone. And unlike debt, they don't have an end date. Ryan's numbers tell a different story. His $1,300 monthly investment adds up to $15,600 contributed during the year, assuming a long-term annual market return of around 8% before inflation, a figure broadly consistent with long-term U.S. equity market history. Over many decades, his account finishes the year with roughly $16,200 depending on market performance. He also keeps approximately $4,200 in additional cash reserves from the unused portion of his former debt payment. His total financial assets increase by more than $20,000. Yet nothing about his life looks richer. That's one of the strangest things about wealth. In the beginning, it often looks exactly like restraint. Daniel feels wealthier because his spending increased. Ryan actually became wealthier because his assets increased. Those aren't the same thing. Now here's where psychology starts playing tricks on both of them. Daniel tells friends becoming debt-free changed everything. He's right. Ryan tells almost nobody. His investments happen automatically on the second day of every month. He rarely opens the account. Nothing exciting happens. No congratulatory emails, no applause, no new possessions, just another automatic transfer, month after month. The irony is that automation often beats motivation. When money leaves your account before you have a chance to spend it, you stop negotiating with yourself. That's a powerful advantage. According to the Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances, households with financial assets tend to accumulate wealth gradually over long periods rather than through sudden windfalls. That's not a motivational slogan. It's simply what the data shows. But year one hides something even more important. Neither Daniel nor Ryan has made a catastrophic mistake. Neither has become rich. Neither has become poor. If you looked only at their daily lives, you'd probably say they're doing equally well. That's why the next few years become so dangerous. Because the biggest financial gaps rarely appear overnight. They grow quietly, one automatic payment at a time. And by year three, the story both men tell themselves about becoming debt-free begins to collide with something much harder to argue with: the numbers. By the time year three arrives, Daniel still describes becoming debt-free as the best financial decision he ever made. And he's absolutely right. What he doesn't realize is that paying off debt was only the first decision. Everything that came after it has quietly become a second decision. And that's the one shaping his future. Ryan reaches the same 3-year milestone with exactly the same feeling. No debt, less financial stress, more confidence. The difference is that one of them has been sending money to companies every month. The other has been sending money to himself. That sounds like motivational advice. It isn't. Let's run the numbers. Over 3 years after becoming debt-free, Daniel has spent roughly roughly $19,000 each year maintaining his upgraded lifestyle. That's nearly $57,000 in additional spending. His SUV lease has cost about $19,400. Insurance premiums have totaled approximately $2,800. Fuel, tires, oil changes, and maintenance have added another $5,000. His larger apartment has cost around $12,600 more than his previous one. Vacations, restaurants, subscriptions, and other lifestyle upgrades have consumed another $17,000. On paper, Daniel has enjoyed every dollar. Sounds great until you subtract everything else. Those dollars didn't disappear. They became opportunity cost. Ryan's automatic investments tell a completely different story. He's contributed $46,800 over those same 3 years. Assuming an average annual return of roughly 8%, his portfolio is now worth around $54,000. Some years the market is positive. Some years it's negative. But because he keeps investing every month regardless of headlines, his average purchase price smooths out over time. His emergency fund has also grown to nearly $15,000. His total financial assets now approach $69,000. Remember, 3 years earlier, both men had exactly the same balance sheet. Now they don't. Not because Ryan earned more. Not because Daniel made a disastrous mistake. Because one converted monthly cash flow into assets. The other converted monthly cash flow into lifestyle. Here's something almost nobody notices. Daniel doesn't feel broke. In fact, he feels successful. His neighbors see the newer vehicle. His colleagues hear about weekend trips. Friends notice that he no longer worries about debt. Socially, everything looks like a win. Ryan experiences almost the opposite. He still drives an older vehicle. He sometimes says no to expensive weekends away. Nobody compliments his index fund. Nobody admires his automatic investment schedule. We tend to celebrate consumption because it's visible. We rarely celebrate ownership because it's invisible. That's why building wealth often feels strangely unrewarding in the beginning. Then something interesting happens around year 5. This is the flip point. It's subtle, almost invisible. But once it happens, it becomes harder and harder for Daniel to catch up. By year 5, Daniel has spent approximately $94,000 maintaining the lifestyle he adopted after becoming debt-free. Again, nothing outrageous. Just lots of ordinary monthly expenses repeated over and over. His lease ends. He signs another one. Monthly payment? Around $590 because vehicle prices and insurance costs have increased. Insurance rises again. Registration fees continue. Tires wear out. Fuel prices fluctuate. Everything costs a little more. Not enough to cause panic, just enough to quietly consume cash. On paper, he's still debt-free. Sounds great until you subtract everything else. Ryan reaches year 5 with a different problem. His investment account is becoming surprisingly large. He's invested a total of $78,000. Assuming similar long-term returns, his portfolio now sits somewhere around $96,000 to $102,000 depending on market performance. Read that again. He hasn't doubled his contributions. He simply gave compound growth enough time to start helping. That's the moment many people misunderstand investing. During the first couple of years, your contributions do almost all the work. Later, your money starts contributing alongside you. Eventually, your investments begin earning more in some years than you personally contribute. That's where wealth starts accelerating. Daniel never sees that acceleration because his monthly surplus keeps flowing outward. Ryan begins seeing it because his surplus keeps flowing inward. Now let's talk about something almost every debt-free success story leaves out. People love talking about becoming debt-free. Very few people talk about what replaces those debt payments. That replacement decision is often worth far more than eliminating the debt itself. Here's what nobody talks about. First, lifestyle creep. This isn't buying a yacht. It's increasing monthly spending little by little until every pay rise disappears. An extra $150 here, another $80 there, a nicer phone, a better gym, premium subscriptions, food delivery. Within a few years, it's surprisingly easy to add $500 to $900 per month without ever making one dramatic purchase. Second, vehicle depreciation. According to Consumer Reports, new vehicles typically lose a significant portion of their value during the first several years of ownership, although depreciation varies by make and model. That means your monthly payment may be buying convenience. It isn't necessarily building wealth. Third, insurance inflation. Higher value vehicles usually bring higher insurance premiums. Depending on location, driving history, and coverage, that can easily mean an additional $500 to $1,500 every year compared with an older paid-off vehicle. People compare monthly payments. They rarely compare ownership costs. Fourth, maintenance and wear. Even reliable vehicles need brakes, batteries, tires, fluids, and unexpected repairs. Budgeting roughly $800 to $1,500 annually for maintenance on an aging vehicle is common. Ignore that number and your budget eventually reminds you. Finally, opportunity cost. This is the one nobody sees because it never appears on a bill. If $1,300 each month isn't invested, it can't compound. Missing an 8% return doesn't generate a warning letter. It simply creates a smaller future. Opportunity cost is silent, and silence makes it easy to ignore. By now, some viewers are probably thinking, so you're saying nobody should enjoy life after becoming debt-free? Not even close. If I only showed you the downsides of lifestyle spending, I'd be doing exactly what every extreme finance influencer does. Life isn't a spreadsheet. Money has a purpose. Taking a family holiday, upgrading to a safer car, moving into a better neighborhood. Those can all be smart financial decisions if they genuinely improve your quality of life and fit comfortably within your budget. The mistake isn't spending. The mistake is permanently increasing spending before permanently increasing assets. That's a very different thing. Ryan isn't winning because he's refusing to enjoy life. He's winning because he delayed part of that enjoyment long enough for his money to begin working alongside him. And here's where the numbers become difficult to ignore. At year 5, the difference between Daniel and Ryan isn't just about investment returns anymore. It's about options. Ryan could lose his job and potentially cover months of expenses. He could make a down payment on a home. He could help family during an emergency. He could change careers without immediately panicking about cash flow. Daniel still has freedom, but much of it depends on his next paycheck arriving on time. Neither man is in financial trouble, but only one has begun building financial independence. And over the next 5 years, that small difference stops growing slowly. It starts growing faster than either of them imagined. By year 10, Daniel and Ryan are both 44 years old. Neither one regrets becoming debt-free. Why would they? It was one of the smartest financial decisions either of them ever made. But one of them made a second smart decision. The other assumed the first one was enough. That's where the real gap comes from. Daniel has continued living comfortably. Every few years he upgrades his vehicle. His housing costs gradually increase. Holidays become a little nicer. Weekends become a little more expensive. None of these choices are reckless. In isolation, each one feels completely reasonable. Together they're powerful, just not in the direction most people think. Over the decade after becoming debt-free, Daniel has spent well over $200,000 on the lifestyle he built after eliminating his loans. Again, that's not wasted money. He created memories. He enjoyed experiences. He reduced stress. Those things have value. But financially, most of those dollars are gone forever. Ryan's numbers tell another story. Over those same 10 years, he's invested approximately $156,000, assuming a long-term annual return averaging around 8%. While understanding real markets never produce the same return every year, his portfolio is now worth roughly $240,000 to $260,000. Read those numbers carefully. He didn't earn an extra six-figure salary. He didn't discover the next technology company. He simply kept buying productive assets every month. Eventually, those assets started buying more assets. That's what compound growth actually looks like. It's painfully slow, until suddenly it isn't. Now here's the number almost everyone brags about. I'm debt-free. That's a fantastic milestone, but it's incomplete. Being debt-free tells us what you no longer owe. It tells us absolutely nothing about what you own. Those are completely different conversations. Let's peel back the layers that almost nobody includes. First, cash flow. Daniel has more monthly obligations than he realizes. Lease payments, insurance, higher living expenses, streaming services, lifestyle commitments. Altogether, they absorb roughly $1,600 to $2,000 every month. Ryan still spends money on life. He simply treats investing as the first bill that gets paid. Second, investment income. By year 10, Ryan's portfolio earns returns that sometimes exceed his annual contributions. Some years the market declines. Other years it rises sharply. But over long periods, the earnings generated by the portfolio itself become larger than the amount he's personally adding. That's when money begins working harder than the investor. Third, flexibility. Daniel depends primarily on employment income. Ryan still works too. The difference is that one has built an asset capable of supporting future choices. Assets buy flexibility. Debt-free status alone doesn't. Fourth, inflation. As prices rise over time, every unnecessary recurring expense also rises. That $18 monthly subscription becomes $22. Insurance premiums increase. Travel costs increase. Restaurant prices increase. Small recurring expenses quietly become much larger over 10 years. Fifth, taxes. Investment accounts aren't all taxed the same way. For example, qualified dividends and long-term capital gains often receive different tax treatment than ordinary income under current IRS rules, although individual circumstances vary. Tax-efficient investing doesn't create higher returns by magic. It simply allows you to keep more of what you already earned. Again, nobody brags about tax efficiency. People brag about new cars. One builds wealth, the other attracts attention. Now let's be fair. If I only showed you the advantages of investing, I'd be doing exactly what every investing influencer criticizes in everyone else. Investing has real downsides. Markets fall, sometimes dramatically. During bear markets, portfolios can decline 20%, 30%, even 50% before recovering. Not everyone has the emotional discipline to continue investing while watching account balances shrink. Liquidity can also matter. If your emergency fund isn't adequate, being heavily invested may force you to sell assets during a market downturn. That's painful. Sequence of returns risk also affects investors approaching retirement. Bad market years early in retirement can have an outsized impact on long-term withdrawals. Those are genuine risks. Now let's give Daniel's path the credit it deserves. There are situations where spending more after becoming debt-free absolutely wins. If upgrading your vehicle significantly reduces repair costs while increasing reliability for work, it may produce a positive financial outcome. If moving into a safer neighborhood improves educational opportunities for your children or shortens a long commute, the benefits may easily outweigh the additional rent. If spending on education, certifications, or starting a business increases your earning power by $15,000 or $20,000 annually, that spending isn't consumption. It's investment. And if you're using money to improve your health through preventative care, quality nutrition, or exercise, the long-term return may never fully appear on a spreadsheet. Context matters. That's why blanket financial advice is usually incomplete. The numbers matter, but so do your goals. Now let's zoom all the way out. 20 years. Daniel is now 54. Ryan is 54 too. Both are still ordinary people. Neither won the lottery, neither became a social media millionaire. Neither inherited wealth. Ryan simply kept doing the same boring thing every month. At the 20-year mark, Daniel has lived comfortably. He has enjoyed life. He's accumulated some savings. Depending on raises, spending habits, and retirement contributions through work, his financial assets might reasonably total somewhere between $180,000 and $260,000. That's respectable. Very respectable. Ryan reaches the same point with dramatically different numbers. 20 years of investing $1,300 every month, assuming an average annual return close to 8%, produces a portfolio approaching $760,000 to $800,000. Some market environments may produce less. Others may produce more. The exact figure isn't the lesson. The gap is one decision, repeated every month, for 20 years. Now here's the lever that changes everything. What if Ryan increased his monthly investment by just $200? Instead of investing $1,300 each month, he invests $1,500. Over 20 years, assuming the same long-term return, that seemingly small increase could add well over $100,000 to his ending portfolio. Not because $200 is magical, because time multiplies consistency. According to the Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances, households with diversified financial assets generally report substantially higher median net worth than households that primarily rely on income alone. That's an observation from the data, not an opinion. The IRS also continues to provide tax advantages through retirement accounts, such as 401k plans and individual retirement arrangements, subject to annual contribution limits and eligibility rules. Using those accounts where appropriate can improve after-tax outcomes over long periods. So if you're fortunate enough to become debt-free, what should you actually do next? Start with one simple plan. Step 1. Before increasing your lifestyle, automate your future. Set up an automatic investment or retirement contribution the day after your paycheck arrives. Even $300 or $500 per month creates momentum. Step 2. Build and maintain an emergency fund covering roughly 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. That reduces the chance you'll return to high-interest debt when life inevitably surprises you. Step 3. Then, and only then, upgrade your lifestyle using what's left. That order matters. Because once lifestyle expenses become permanent, reducing them becomes psychologically difficult. Invest first, spend second. Not because spending is bad, because habits formed during the first year after becoming debt-free often determine the next 20. So let's go back to Daniel and Ryan. They both walked away thinking they made the smart play. Daniel believed eliminating debt meant he had finally earned permission to spend more freely. Ryan believed eliminating debt created an opportunity to quietly buy more assets. Neither one actually ran the full numbers. Daniel underestimated the lifetime cost of replacing debt payments with lifestyle payments. Ryan probably underestimated just how powerful compound growth would become after a decade. The real trap isn't spending money. The real trap isn't investing either. The real trap is making the decision based on hype, headlines, or someone else's opinion instead of running the numbers for your own situation. Because your income is unique, your goals are unique, your family is unique, and your financial plan should reflect that. If you're wondering what happens when someone stays in debt longer while investing at the same time, or whether paying off a low-interest mortgage early actually makes financial sense, that's a completely different conversation, and it's one we'll break down with the same numbers. Because every financial decision has a hidden side. The question is whether you found it. Did you include everything? Because the answer that includes everything is the only answer that matters. If this video helped you see something you didn't know was there, subscribe to Wealth Blueprint and hit the notification bell. We break down the hidden math behind the financial decisions you face every day.